I'm Ariana Grande.
Hi, I'm Cynthia Erivo.
And you're listening to the Broadway Podcast Network.
Visit bpn.fm to discover more.
There's a cat over here. There's a cat over there. And the wrong one died. And the wrong one died.
Welcome to The Wrong Cat Died, the podcast breakdown of the catastrophe. I'm your host, Mike Abrams, and today we are celebrating Andrew Lloyd Webber. With Phantom of the Opera set to close on Broadway, I'm having a handful of what I'm calling the Phantom Cats on the podcast. So today my guest has been performing in Phantom of the Opera, but before that she was Grizabella on the first European tour of Cats. So welcome, Janet Saia, and thank you for joining me.
Thank you. So good to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, excited to have you. I love talking to Grizabellas because I love, and I'm always worried because my entire podcast and thesis is like, I don't think your character is deserving. But it's always fun. I know, right? But it's always fun because I think there's like, you have such a close interpretation and can answer some of the stuff that's like unanswered with that. And I also like the fact that like this is a production I haven't talked to anybody from yet with the first European tour. So let's start at the beginning. Okay. I always ask my first question is usually to like newer cast members or people who are on the current tour. I'm like, what did you think of the 98 movie, or when did you first see it? But you predate that, you know, so what was like before you got cast in the show? How familiar were you with it, and did you get a chance to see it ahead of time? Like, were you like, where was that in your theater kind of journey before you end up on that first tour?
Oh my gosh, it goes all the way back to when I was singing in my bedroom as a teenager. I used to listen to Barbra Streisand, and her version of Memory is what was in my head. And so that was my first introduction to Cats. I used to sing Barbra Streisand Memory in my bedroom. So her beautiful rendition of that song was in my head naturally when I went to the audition. The day I went to the audition, I didn't want to go. It was in New York City, of course. And I was dragged there by my buddy after we both got cut from an audition for Fiddler on the Roof. And so she dragged me to this dance call for Cats, European tour. And I stood in the back. I had the wrong shoes on. I had like Fiddler on the Roof, little lace-up boots with a heel and a little peasant dress. I was in the back row dancing. And I'm a dancer, but I'm predominantly a singer-actress. And I danced and did the best I could, and they called me back right then and there. And they said, do you sing Memory? And I said, well, the Barbra Streisand version. And so I belted it out, and I strangely got the job. So it was really bizarre how it happened. But you knew the Barbra Streisand version of Memory, but had you had a chance to even see it, or was that just like a recording you had that you sang as just a great song to belt? Yeah, a great song to develop that I really connected to and loved to belt. And I mean, of course, I think they called me back and had me sing the Webber version. But it wasn't just you're hired on it wasn't hired on the spot. But totally. I was called back and put through the ringer, of course. But yeah, so that was how I got it. And then it started in Langenthal, Switzerland. So we rehearsed for 6 weeks, an absolutely incredible cast. We rehearsed and we learned the show in German and English, and it took 6 weeks.
That was one of my questions for you. Was I've talked to some people who've done it in Vienna and who've done it in Hamburg, and learning in German just sounds crazy to me to start with, but you had to go back and forth on tour between English and German depending on the stop, right?
Yes, and it was a good thing that I came from an opera background. I studied opera for about 4 years in the very beginning of my training, and so I had to study German in college. So I was very familiar with the language. And that helped me quite a bit. So yeah, we had to switch back and forth. I think we sang it. Well, we went to Austria. So the tour hit all the major cities in Switzerland for 1 month each, which was absolutely just stunning.
A month
in each city. So
wow,
Zurich.
That's a long tour stop.
It was Zurich and Basel and Langenthal and Bregenz, Austria. Graz, Austria was absolutely my all-time favorite stop there. And in between opening nights, I would take 3 or 4 days off and go tour, Italy and surrounding areas. It was one of the just greatest moments of my career to do that tour as Grizz.
Yeah, what a cool experience, because such a beautiful country and like cool places to get to go see. I want to go back. So before you had your 6 weeks rehearsal, had you seen the stage version at all? Like, did you see the Broadway version while you were in New York? Like, or were you learning it without having seen somebody else perform it?
Yeah, no, I don't actually remember when I saw it, but I do remember when I graduated from college, a good friend of mine whisked me off to the city, and we saw like 3 shows in 2 days, and I think that's when I saw Cats. So I knew,
okay, so
the Broadway version.
You'd at least seen one version, so you weren't going in cold. You weren't like trying to turn your fiddler hat off and and try to dance from scratch. Like you had at least some idea of what's going on.
I had a base of knowledge. I saw the Broadway version. In fact, Richard Poole, who I perform with in Phantom, was in that Broadway version. So that's really funny. I'm looking at my program now, and he's in it. An absolutely incredible performer, Richard Poole. So yeah, I had knowledge of what I was getting myself into.
Wow. Okay. That's there's a lot of Phantom to Cats crossover, which is what we have, why we're here a little bit today. So we'll get to that part in a little bit. But before that, I want to go back to the rehearsal process. So I am fascinated by, you're obviously learning the song and the dance in 2 different languages of doing it. But how much time do they put and spend going on tour into the backstories and the relationships and stuff like that? Like, what do you remember from that part of the rehearsal?
I remember the director working with me individually, of course, coming up and telling me about Grizabella and how she's perceived by the other cats, sneered at, and they run away from her as she enters the stage because she's downtrodden and she's had a life that is, wild, full of glitz and, ups and downs and the hard life and the crazy life and waking up in all kinds of bars, so she was a great star, and the director would, feed me these things in quiet and quietly in my ear as the other cats were doing their rehearsing. And I would go back, especially with that first moment where Grizabella comes out on the stage and she's trying to go through the motions of her dance that she once used to do, but her body's falling apart and she's just a hot mess. So yeah, he would try to help me have the relationship with the other cats where I'm like saying, hey, this is what I used to be. Give me a chance. I'm worthy to be picked to go to the Heaviside Layer. I'm the most needy because I've struggled and had such a hard life,
So I do. I've heard some really interesting things about that, like the rehearsal process with Grizabella, because it's almost like you're pulled out and separated intentionally to kind of create some of that, not animosity, but like that you're shunned early on and then you're accepted later. And so that is kind of being built in by the way they're doing that. How does that relate on tour? When I guess your tour was if you were doing a month at a time, you were a little bit more stable, but I've always found it fascinating that like it takes almost a deep level of acting, because I'm sure you become really close with your castmates as you're traveling around multiple countries with them, and they have to then every night go out and pretend to hate you at first, and then embrace you. Yeah. So like, what is that like to kind of go? And I mean, is it you put your makeup on and you kind of get into character and mode, and that's the acting piece, or is it really pretty challenging having these like deep relationships with all these people and then have to go and almost have this like dark moment before that happens?
Yeah, well, it's kind of built into the structure of the show. I mean, in the very beginning, we're all dancing Jello cats together, and I'm not Grizabella. I'm like a younger Grizabella, and I'm back in the back row dancing with everyone, and then I have a lot of time to myself because I'm not in all those numbers. And so I kind of go off and wander the halls and watch them from the sidelines, which is probably what Grizabella, the cat, would do anyway. She's not able to join in the fun. So she's kind of on the sidelines looking in, but thinking to herself, well, I once used to be able to do that and I was the best, or something. So I would hang out backstage and watch the show, and then I would get my huge fur coat on, and as you put on a costume, you slowly come into that character, and you're putting on that makeup, and your mascara is just dripping down your face, and your lip is torn, and you get into the character. And that wig, I had the most fantastic wig. It's just tattered and torn in all different levels and standing up at the ears, and it you really do become that forlorn, desperate animal that's ripped and torn, and you hobble yourself onto stage, and you see them all staring at you, and you sneer back, and try to let them know that you're worthy, and that you want to be included with them, even though you've had a downturn. So yeah, it was always exciting to me. But one of the things, one of my best friends that I'm still friends with today was Victoria the White Cat. And she was the one that we hung out a lot and toured around and partied and did fun things with. So I was always really connected to her in particular. And we're still friends today. She lives in Scotland. So
that's awesome. I think there's a lot of question about the Victoria Grizabella relationship, and so having like one of your best friends doing that, did you play that as mother daughter? Like, what was, or were you told anything about that relationship?
I can't remember. It was so long ago. I mean, she's the innocent one. She's the fresh one, and I'm the wretched old glamour queen. So the opposite there of this beautiful, pure, innocent being, and the person who's been through it all and has so many stories to tell. I really feel that I have a lot to tell Victoria about being a cat and what to watch out for. And so in the end, when she is the one who chooses me and touches my outreached hand, that's just such a special and beautiful moment. It's like a magical moment where, I am revealed as the one, the chosen one. And so, but in my opinion, I think that Victoria should go with me up to the Heaviside Layer.
Ooh.
That's what I feel like. And maybe I'm ahead of myself here, but that's what I...
Yeah, I want to put a pause on that because I got a lot of follow-up questions for that. And that is my final question for you. So I really like where we're going to go with that. So we will come back to that.
Okay.
So I it's interesting to hear that. Like, I love that it's almost like there's some times when I'm like thinking about the show, and I've probably thought with the Junkyard and some of the super fans way more in detail about this than most people, including people performing it. But there is like a population that believes that Victoria was abandoned by Grizabella and is now mom, and that's why there's a connection coming back. And then there's also a faction that believes that Victoria could become the next Grizabella if she's not careful, and Grizabella is like the role model to tell her not to do that. And so it's like there's almost a split between that. And so it's interesting to hear, and then also hearing that you're good friends with the Victoria off stage, like how to play that connection as either the peer. Does that ever drift off stage, like when you're having the I'm the role model, when you were out living it up in Switzerland where you're like, okay, I made that mistake. You don't go make that mistake when you're out at the bar, or is it you just separate life and work?
It probably, separate life and work. I wasn't a mom at the time when I did Grizabella. I'm a mom now, but I would let people just do whatever they want and be wild and have fun. And I pretty much, when I was on tour, though, my sister Sherry came out and she was pretty wild. So I did have to rein her in a bit.
Yeah.
We ran off and did some pretty fun things.
Yeah, I love it. The end Grizabella, not the beginning Grizabella is what you're bringing in. I want to go back to a piece on the performance that you said, you kind of stand off to the side. Grizabella has, at least from what I've been told, about 15 minutes on stage. And so as a performer in a show that has, most of the other cats are on almost the entire time, how is it, how do you prepare to get across such a powerful moment, a powerful piece in a short window of time? Like, how do you prep for that every night to know that, I've got this extreme, I got a belt, I've got this great number, I've got to really tell a huge part of the story in a shorter window? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it requires a lot of prep before you head out there. I'm a very physical person. Like I said, I was a dancer. And so getting into the physicality of it, making sure your costume's on in time and doing some of the motion of the cat before you get on stage. Connecting to your body is really important so that you come on already fully in character and fully in the memory and the backstory of what, you've gone through in life, how you've been abused or remembering your great moments when you were a star and just kind of living in the world of your memories. That's what the song is about. Let the memory live again. And so she's wrapped up in her memories of how great she was, and she thinks she can go out there and do it again by reliving that memory and telling others to live the memory. Then that's how you find happiness. So Grizabella trying to find happiness by reliving her memory, that's kind of how I would get into the character there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's interesting that you're kind of off stage kind of trying to almost mimic the motions. That way when you walk on, you're fully ready to go.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And actors also are good at just switching it on. You can just... When you've trained and spent your life doing it, you just, you're standing there as Janet, and then next thing you know, boom, you only have to say one sentence or put your mind back into one image or memory, and then you're in it,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's as someone not at all in the world, it is like it's your profession and a skill and stuff that you all have trained for your entire life to be able to do that. And then I do think in Cats too, you put on the leotard and the makeup and the jacket, so it's even almost a little bit more like you're really in character by the time you kind of go out there. Different than maybe Fiddler, or some of the other things where you're slightly in costume, but not nearly as like you really have to get in costume in Cats.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. I have a painting of the makeup that I had to put on every night. That was a big part of the job, definitely. Getting your face all duded up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to talk a little bit about other character relationships. Did you think Victoria's a very big one? There's also some potential theories about Bomb Ballerina and Demeter. There's also, with any of the maybe the older male cats of the past relationships, or if you're in McCavity's crime gang, what were the things that you thought about when you were kind of going on tour to help kind of create that arc of the memories that you're reliving? Did you think about the Jellicle family when you kind of had that?
Yeah. It's like a big reunion when we all come together on stage. And so I don't know, maybe I haven't seen these cats in a long time. And there's some memories from Rum Tum Tugger that maybe I want to relive or not relive. So he's such a wild, fun cat. I'm sure there was something going on with them. I don't know. I don't remember exactly the relationships between those cats, Bustopher Jones and Growl Tiger. I mean, yeah, I think that maybe the kittens, I don't know, could have been kittens that I birthed for sure.
Yeah.
You know? Bomb Ballerina, I was friends with her too, Joni McDonald. She was incredible. And, but I don't remember the relationship I had with her in terms of, you know, our onstage characters.
I realize I'm asking you to go back 20 years of memory of a backstory that's not spoken on stage to be like, yeah, this is exactly how I did it. I can tell you a couple that I think are not maybe necessarily the like 100%, but definitely ones that are thought about a lot. So I think one is obviously the Victoria, which we'll get to because I know that I love where you're going of bringing her with you. But there was the potentially being Bomb's mother, or like you were her role model growing up, and like aunt or something, and that was almost the fear of that she could also go down that path if she's not careful, because of her relationship with McCavity. Yeah, I mean, I definitely am like the grandmother, like telling people, look at me, even though I've gone the wrong path, still I hold my dignity together, you know? Mm-hmm. So I keep myself from falling apart. So I'm kind of saying to them, yeah, you know, be careful, watch out, because this is what you'll turn into, but still I'm holding myself together. I mean, the kittens, you know, I have to be nice to them. And I see Cassandra. Cassandra is the Siamese cat. And I mean, she's so gorgeous. But someday still she could be like me. So I have to show her it's not all youth and glamour and attitude. You know, she could be doomed too. You know? Yeah. Did you ever think about where Grizabella went when she left? Like, you know, the story arc is she left, and you know we're getting the very end of that. She's coming back to be reunited with the family and accepted by the family. Where does she go? Like, is she part of McCavity's crime gang? Does she leave the Jellicles for drugs and sex and all kinds of stuff? Like, did you even think about that, or was it more of like you just kind of came back to this is where I'm returning?
Yeah. You know, she probably went back to her cave somewhere, and I don't know where, you know, I don't know where she would have hid out, but she's been in so many bars and places all over, you know, the town that she probably just hung out in her regular, you know, haunt.
Yeah. Okay.
You know? Yeah.
I love it. That's such a much more wholesome version than what I think like I have written for Grizabella on her way out. You know, I feel like I picture the like you know, a very wild, go off and do all kinds of crazy stuff, you know, sex, drugs, all the stuff in between, and going everywhere to where you're on like the most insane bender, almost like Hangover style bender, and then is now like, okay, time to get back here and have my redemption arc.
Digging herself out of a black hole that she's been in for so many years, I'm sure, or something like that. Or, hey, maybe just wild and crazy fun. But then once it takes a toll on her little body, she's like, oh God, how am I going to get out of this and come back to the fam or the group or the tribe?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's like the superstar that kind of falls off the deep end for a little bit, you know, like makes the break as the star from the family that got out.
Yeah.
Made it too big and then is coming back
and
to
now she wants her comeback, and she's trying to get her last, you know, moment. And she gets it. So
yeah. She does. She does. Were there any other things that you remember from the tour, or the like, especially the backstories where you're just like, oh, we definitely thought about this, but that's not really said on stage? Like, was there any unique moments to your tour that you? It's like, again, this is a tour that's not as documented because it's, you know, predates most of the internet age type of, you know, where, you know, like now everything is word for word documented and on social media and everything. But like, what were some of the parts that you remember from your group and from that tour that was like unique to your tour?
I mean, let me think. Munkastrap. I remember Munkastrap just being really strong. He's like the narrator for the piece. And I remember him being like in charge of everybody. And, but he would bar me from entering the stage. And I would just tell him, I had the authority over him more, to push him away and say, no, you're not going to block me. I'm the great Grizabella, So I remember some of the relationships with him, and it's so hard to remember all the way back.
No big deal. Okay. Yeah, no, I think it's part of the the fun of doing this is it's been on for so long and been running for so long that there is just like endless stories from this and versions and interpretations and everything else. I want to hear a little bit, like I think you mentioned, but I want to hear, where were your favorite tour stops? Like, in the European tour, as someone, not from there and going over, where were your favorite places to stop during that tour?
I would say Geneva. Geneva was incredible. People would lay out on the piers in the sun in the summer. We were there in the summer, so people would just lay out on the piers, like in the city. It wasn't even a beach or anything. They just have a pier that went out into the lake and grass, and everybody was just out there as if it was a beach. And even some people were topless, and that was one of the things that I was like, whoa, right here in the city. That was pretty wild. What I loved most about Switzerland was just walking along these beautiful river walks, and of course in Langenthal, just the mountains. And I'd go off to the Zermatt, the city of Zermatt, where they have the Matterhorn mountain, which is like, if you go to Disney, they've got the Matterhorn. That mountain, I couldn't ski because I was in a show, but I just that was so incredible to be
I can't
on the top of the Matterhorn. Yeah,
Grizabella having a ski injury here and you can't perform the next day, but I've been there. It's one of the most beautiful towns I've ever seen. Oh, yeah.
And then I have a really, really, really special memory from Graz, Austria, because my father, who I adore, he's the reason I'm on stage today. He decided to come out and see me in Graz, Austria. And I said, okay, get yourself out there. I'll be rehearsing at the Graz Opera House. So wait till I'm done with my rehearsal, and then I'll see you at the hotel. And so I'm in there rehearsing. I'm singing Memory. And I look up, and who is in the balcony seat all the way from San Francisco, California? But my father is sitting up there in the balcony right in the middle of me singing Memory in rehearsal. So that was like, just how did he get all the way to the opera house without my telling him? And that was just a really magical moment for me to have him there.
What a cool experience.
Oh, yeah. Just beautiful.
Amazing. I hope you're having a jellicle ball. We'll be right back after this quick break. Okay, let's pivot. I want to talk a little bit about Phantom. I've kind of find this as fascinating because it's, they're two Andrew Rubber shows, but they couldn't be more different. So I would love to hear a little bit about like your, not necessarily transition, but you've done both. Like, tell me a little bit about kind of your current getting into Phantom and kind of being part of it, and then how you kind of have the similarities and differences between these two Andrew Lloyd Webber shows.
Yeah. Well, I got into Phantom, strangely, from a Cats audition. I was back in New York, and I went to a Cats audition as a dancer. And I got cut because I did the wrong hands or something. I did Phantom hands when I was supposed to be doing Cat's hands. And as I walked out the door, in walked Kristen Blodgett. And she said, Janet, what are you doing at the dance call? You're a singer. I said, oh, yeah, well, I love to dance. And so she said, well, stay because you can sing. So she hired me to play yet another cat, Jenny Anydots, in the Westchester Dinner Theater version of Cats that she was working on. And I did that. And while we were working in that, she called me to the side one day and said, come in this studio here. I want to hear you sing. And we worked together just on some other music. And then a day later, she called and said, hey, do you have a high E? And I said, well, I've been belting out Cats. But yeah, give me a couple days and I'll belt a high E. She said, well, we need a swing at Phantom on Broadway. I said, oh, great. Okay. So I worked up my high operatic E And she called me in and put on a diva suit and sang Carlotta notes. And I got hired to be the swing.
That is amazing.
That was my first Broadway job. And boy, did I work hard for that. It took me a long time to get on Broadway, but it was just so exciting when I finally got that contract and walked to the Majestic Theater, which I absolutely adore, for the very first time after wandering around Times Square in my 20s, just saying, when is it going to be my turn? When? I know I'm going to work in one of these theaters one day. But to finally get my own theater, the Majestic, which strangely I had been in to see my first Broadway show, which was 42nd Street, when I was a teenager. So,
wow.
Yeah, kind of interesting, wow. Right? Yeah, I came
full circle.
42nd Street in the house, and now I'm on the stage at the Majestic.
Can we just quickly talk that you just casually threw in that you did a Jenny Anydots dinner theater production?
Yes. I remember slipping on potato skins as I was tap dancing as Jenny Anydots. Yeah,
so that was after the tour, right?
After the tour, right. After the tour. And actually, it was after I did the tour of Phantom too. So after the Phantom tour, that's when I auditioned for the Cats at Westchester. And Cats Westchester.
So fun. Okay, so you did Cats Westchester, Jenny Anydots, tap number
with all the little mice and the big huge fat suit, and then rip it off and put on your fringe tap dance suit. That was fun too. But it was in the middle of that when Kristen took me out and put me in Phantom Broadway. So boy, am I grateful for that Jenny Anydots chance.
Yeah. I mean, and again, it's such an interesting parallel of a lot of the same people working, because it's two of his shows. Yeah, and so it's so I've heard the reverse too, that someone ended up in Cats because of a Phantom. And there's a lot of that back and forth. Yeah.
Well, I'm an Andrew Lloyd Webber girl. I mean, Evita is the reason why I switched from opera training. I was going to be an opera singer, and I switched to musical theater when I was at San Francisco State University, because I saw Evita and I said, that's what I want to do. I can do that. And I was in Evita in college, but never the Broadway version. So yeah, I've actually been associated with Andrew Lloyd Webber in 3 of his shows.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, let's go to some rapid fire, because I want to get to the most important question here, and I've got a lot of follow-ups now because you've already teased your answer. But let's start with, if you could go on as any cat, ignoring male, female, singer, dancer, or whatever, who would you want to play for just one night? Which track?
Oh my gosh, it would definitely be Bombi.
I
used when I was in the show, I used to look at Bombi and be like, oh, she's swinging. I would definitely want to be that fierce girl. And I love to watch Joni McDonald in our company do it and just be like, oh man, I should really be playing that part.
I love it.
Yeah, she's awesome.
Who are your favorite and least favorite cats?
I really didn't like the number Peaks and Polligles. That was my least favorite cat, sorry to say. And my favorite cat, aside from Grizz, of course, is probably Mistopheles, because I was just thrilled at that dance number and watching him do those chaîné turns. I think that's what they're called. Yeah, no, not chaîné.
You asked the wrong person.
I know
what you're talking
about. The turns that he does at the end there, like 20 or 30 of those jeté turns or whatever. No, not jeté turns. I can't remember the ballet term, but that was just magical. And the guy we had was amazing. So that was.
What is your favorite song from the show?
Macavity and Memory, of course. I love Macavity. Macavity is just so much fun.
Yeah, and it goes back to your Bombi kind of piece. So.
Yeah.
I love here's my Phantom crossover. If one cat was going to haunt a theater, who do you think would be best at it?
If one cat was going to haunt the Winter Garden,
if he was going to be Any theater, yeah. If he's going to come back and be like the Phantom of the Opera kind of haunting, which cat do you think would be able to be the best one to do that?
Ooh, which cat would haunt the theater? Well, probably Growl Tiger, because he was such a theater like old time lover of the theater. Like he was built into the it's like he was born in the theater. He was meant to be.
That's a really good answer. I hadn't thought about him because most of my knowledge is from the more recent production where he's not in it.
I'm talking about Gus. Gus Growl. Gus Growl Tiger. Yeah.
But the Growl Tiger, but to that, like, that little insert of the performance is very, that's a great answer. I hadn't thought that. I love it.
Yeah, really. I guess I'm saying that because the Gus that I perform with in Europe, he gave me his amazing robe. We all wear robes backstage. And when I left the show a little bit early, I left after 1 year, he gave me his robe, and I took that robe and I wore it at Phantom for my first year there. Which is interesting. So I already feel like Gus is haunting the Majestic Theater because his robe is there. We've got a lot of extra robes laying around the theater. Whenever I see his robe, I think, oh, Gus is here.
Well, I love that. Okay, so $1 million question, and you kind of teased your answer a little bit, but I have argued that I actually don't think Grizabella should be the Jellicle choice. So I want you to either defend Grizabella or give a different theory. I would love to hear the theory of that Victoria's coming with you, or do you think a different cat should be picked, or what is your interpretation of this?
Well, we're all going out and telling our stories and saying why we need to be chosen to go beyond, but I will stick with Grizabella, and I will stick with that because she's saying, touch me. It's so easy to leave me in these dark times. If you touch me, you'll understand what happiness is. So she's inviting all of them to know happiness. And I love that about her. And so as she reaches her little hand back, asking for someone to choose her, and they do, I just feel like she's saying, choose me and we'll all be happy, And so Victoria is the one that dips her little paw into mine and chooses me to go up. So I think that, just like in ancient times when somebody would be buried and they would bury their cat with them in the tomb to go with them up to the Heaviside Layer, to heaven or wherever beyond they would go. I think that Victoria should go with Grizz as her companion in the afterlife. And the two of them should ascend, whether you think it's mother and daughter or any other downtrodden and innocent, they both should go up together. And
I love the thought there. That you've got two, like, they're going to go together. You're going to have companion. Like, it's a companion to go with you. Is in that, like, I've always kind of thought it a little bit is about being reborn, and that, like, Grizabella's going to go up and then potentially come right back as kind of like a new reborn, fresh life. So I like that it's like, all right, we're both going to go together and we're both going to start fresh together.
Right.
Is this part of this? Does this go back to the fact that you and the Victoria were really good friends, and it's like, all right, we're going to celebrate together. We're going to go up there together, and then we're going to come back together because we've been going out to every night together.
Yeah. I mean, we have been friends all these years. So she did move on from the show with me. So maybe that does have something to do with it. That, hey, I left the show, but I took a friend along the future journey with me. Yeah.
I love it. I do think so much of the interpretations stem from, like, the actor relationships, like the outside of the theater relationships. And so it's cool to hear a different one like that, because it's something I hadn't, like, if I take two people out of it, I hadn't thought about Victoria ever going up with Grizabella, or the two cats I had always joked go together would be, Tugger and Mistopheles together, or like some some version of a different pairing. But yeah, it's a fun answer.
Yeah, or Demeter and Bombi Would they go together?
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah,
definitely
they're kind
Gus and Jelly Lorem, they would definitely go together.
There's a lot of versions of that now. So now I've thought of like, okay, now there's a lot of ways of how do we like, this is changing the Jellicle choice every year to not just one cat. We're going to pick two every year now.
Two cats, right. We'll have to contact Trevor Nunn and have him. He's good at changing things up and solving problems that other people wouldn't think of.
I love it. Well, this has been super fun. How can people stay in touch? This is going to come out, like right around the end of the Phantom closing. So how can people stay in touch with you?
On my website, janetsaia.com.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Website, we'll link it, and so people can stay in touch on everything you're working on.
Great. It's been so fun.
Thank you so much for coming on. Yeah, it was a blast to have you and hear all the stories.
It's been great thinking back on all the memories. My pleasure.
Yeah. Awesome. And thanks everyone else for listening to this episode of The Wrong Cat Died, the podcast breakdown of the catastrophe. To follow along, you can subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, or anywhere else to listen to podcasts. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at The Wrong Cat Died, or check out our website, thewrongcatdied.com.